Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is going to talk about all about staff meetings. Specifically, we will talk about effective strategies for conducting staff meetings and the significance of communication with your team. And so for today, we're really going to, just dive into it and talk about these strategies that make staff meetings productive and explore why open communication with your team is crucial. You will learn how to lead efficient and engaging meetings and understand the broader significance of communication in building a high-performing team. A little bit about me. My name is Darlene Ayala. I am the director for Bumo work in Century City. I am deeply passionate about early childhood education. I've been working within the field for about 12 years now, and I am an advocate for the Montessori method. I do have two Montessori teaching credentials, one for infant toddlers and one for preschool. I also have my bachelor's and master's degree in child development. And, with working within the field for so long, I've played all the roles. I've been the assistant, I've been the lead teacher, the site director, and now director. And so I really know the structure and dynamics of the classroom really well. My commitment lies in creating a loving, joyful, safe, and nurturing environment for all students, families, and staff members. And so for our agenda for today, again, we're just going to go into the effective strategies for staff meetings, the significance of communication with your team. And I also have a couple of questions at the end that were sent that I will go ahead and answer. Now, even though the agenda looks, a little bit on the short side, there is a lot of information to cover. And so we are going to go ahead and get started. And so the role of staff meetings in organizational success. Staff meetings serve as a hub for communication, collaboration, and decision-making in an organization. Organization meaning, your school or your daycare. They promote information sharing, team building, problem solving, and goal alignment, all of which are essential for organizational success and continued growth. Effective staff meetings contribute to a motivated and informed workforce, resulting in improved productivity and overall success. So we're going to dive into it and we're going to talk about these things that we see that are incorporated within staff meetings. Obviously, information sharing, right? Staff meetings are a platform for sharing information, updates, and news within your schools. This ensures that all team members are on the same page and have access to the latest developments, which is vital for informed decision-making. So obviously within a staff meeting, you're sharing information, whether that's upcoming events, whether that's updates within your school, or just want to share information of things that are going on. And so in general, it could be any type of information, but the whole purpose of a staff meeting is to share some type of information, right? However, also within staff meetings where it's really about team building and morale. And so regular staff meetings provide an opportunity for team members to connect, share their thoughts and experiences, and build rapport. A cohesive team is more likely to work well together and contribute positively to the organization's success. And so obviously this is a time for everyone just to come together and to team build, and share your thoughts, share your concerns, connect with each other. A lot of the times when we are working, we're off into different classrooms doing different things. And we don't really have a lot of opportunities to meet with each other and talk about these things and build team rapport. And so staff meetings can really help with that. Problem solving. Staff meetings offer a collaborative environment where challenges, obstacles, and issues can be discussed and addressed collectively. This enables the organization to find solutions more efficiently and make informed decisions. So this is a great time to talk about certain challenges or obstacles that are happening within your school. A good time to collaborate and for everyone to, share their thoughts and ideas or help figure out ways in which those problems can be solved. And so again, because we are off doing different things and working in different classrooms, coming together and talking about these problems and figuring out solutions is a great way to come together and talk about within these staff meetings. Feedback and improvement. Meetings allow for constructive feedback and performance evaluations. This feedback loop helps employees grow, learn from their mistakes, and improve their skills and productivity. I think improvement and feedback is essential. That's only that's only a way to make people better and to know some of their flaws. Obviously there's a way to present that to them, and we're going to talk more about that within this webinar. But for me, I love receiving feedback as well. Especially after staff meeting, I always ask my staff, how did I do? Do you think I should have said this? Do you think I should have done that? What should I have done differently? What should I have done better? And so that's how I learn. And without feedback, I would never know what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. So I think feedback is a great asset. And I also think it does help for improvement. Communication and transparency. Open and transparent communication is essential for your success. Staff meetings create an avenue for leaders to communicate the organization's visions and strategies, which foster trust by and among employees. And so obviously communication is the key to staff meeting, and we're going to talk more about communication and the importance of it, and also the collaboration between communication and trust, is really essential for your staff. And so we're going to talk more about that as well. But in general, staff meetings serve as a hub for communication, collaboration, and decision-making in your schools. They promote information sharing, team building, problem solving, and goal alignment, all of which are essential for your success and your continuous growth. Effective staff meetings contribute to a motivated and informed workforce, resulting in improved productivity and overall success. And so going into, setting clear objectives and creating a focused agenda. Setting clear objectives and creating a focused agenda are essential steps in organizing effective meetings. So obviously, when you go into this meeting, you want to make sure that there's a purpose. Like, why are we having this meeting in the first place, right? And what is your objective? What are you trying to get out of this meeting? Also, you want to have your agenda. You want to make sure that you have a set plan ready to go for this meeting. And we're going to talk a lot about the agenda, but let's go into setting clear objectives. Like I said, before even scheduling this meeting, you want to know what your purpose is. You want to know what you're trying to achieve out of this meeting. Is it for decision making? Is it for problem solving? Is it just for information sharing? Are you brainstorming? Having these clear objectives provide direction and context for your meeting. And so you really want to make sure that that's clear for yourself, because how you're going to present it needs to reflect on why you're having this meeting. Your outcomes, what are you trying to get out of this meeting, right? This could be trying to create and figure out decisions, action items, shared information on a particular issue. Knowing the desired outcomes help you understand the meeting's importance and what's at stake. So not only helps you, but also helps your staff understand, the reason and purpose of this meeting and what those outcomes look like. Let's say, for example, the purpose of this meeting is talk about a problem of, you've received a lot of incident reports, right? You had to sign off on. And so the reason for this particular meeting is to talk about why am I receiving so many incident reports? And so that's the purpose of the meeting, right? And so your outcome is trying to gather information as to why you're receiving all of these, which can help in decision-making and action plan, right? And your measurable goals. Objectives should be measurable and achievable. For example, instead of having a vague objective, like let's say discussing these incident reports, right? You can have a more measurable objective, like we will review all of these incident reports and agree on a corrective action to prevent this from continuing to happen, right? You want to have a specific goal and a measurable goal too. And so we really want to try to figure out why we're receiving all these incident reports. Is it because we are lacking supervision? Is it because, are we short staffed? Are we over ratio? You really want to try to find the core reason as to why you keep receiving these incident reports. And so relevance. Objectives should be relevant to your staff. Ensure that participants have a stake in or can contribute meaningfully to the meeting goals. Irrelevant objectives can lead to disengagement. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're discussing during these meetings is relevant to your team. If it's not, they're going to lose their interest. They're not going to be engaged. They're not going to mentally be in the meeting. And so whatever information you're sharing, you just want to make sure that it's relevant for them. Creating a focused agenda. So I think this is really important. You want to come into this meeting, you're ready to go. You want to have your agenda laid out, prepared, ready to follow. It's kind of like your roadmap for the meeting, in a way. And so you want to make sure that you are ready to go. You have the roadmap all set out. And so you feel confident in the information that you're going to share because you're very organized and you have it ready to go. So for this, I do have a small video to share with you just to kind of give you the general aspects of what that looks like.
The more prepared you are for your next meeting, the better the meeting is going to go. Meetings with agendas tend to finish earlier than meetings without them. Plus, good meeting agendas promote engagement and participation in the meeting. Wondering what to include in your meeting agendas? Sometimes the best meeting agendas are often the simplest ones. First, ensure the agenda answers 2 questions for all attendees. Why am I at this meeting? And what do I need to do in the meeting? Second, state the meeting's purpose to help answer those questions. If the meeting goal isn't already made clear by the meeting's title, put it at the top of the agenda. Third, use verbs. List out generally what needs to happen, but as actions, not nouns. For example, don't write 2021 hiring. Instead, write determine budget and time frame for 2021 hiring. Finally, have bullet points. Instead of including paragraphs of information in your meeting agenda, use bullet points to list out any areas of discussion or updates that need to be taken separately. Using the tips above, you can start using agendas in your meetings today. And if you're looking for more complex meeting agendas or pre-created templates, check out our 80+ template options. Get started for free today and make every...
I like the video. It's straight to the point, gives you a quick little guideline as to how to create agendas and what that looks like. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about, a little bit more into these agendas and how you can make them successful. And so structured agenda, well-structured agenda provides a clear roadmap for your meeting. It outlines the topics, their order, and the time allocated to each. A structured agenda prevents the meeting from veering off track and helps manage time effectively. And so I think the agenda is going to help you, again, just stay on track, right? Because a lot of the time when we do meetings, it's already hard to plan a meeting with your staff, because everyone's in the classrooms, everyone's on different lunches. So it can be a little bit of a challenge to even get everybody together. And so having this agenda is going to help you stay on track of what it is you want to discuss, but also it'll support the time too, because we don't want to just waste their time. We want to make sure that we are able to give and share all the information that we need to do in a certain time frame. We can't go over it because they have to go back to class or they have to go, whatever the case is. We want to make sure that we respect our staff's time and that we are able to give them all the information that is needed within a certain time frame. So having a structured agenda will help with that. Prioritization, prioritizing items on your agenda based on the importance and relevance. Ensure that the most critical topics are discussed early when participants are more attentive. So whatever that you need to talk about first and whatever is most important is going to be the top of your agenda list, right? Because we know that once we start meetings, a lot of the time staff is present mentally and we have their attention. As we go on and the meeting goes on, we sort of lose people's attention, and engagement. So we want to make sure that the important items are at the top of the list, and that's what we're going to discuss first. Time allocation. Allocate specific time slots for each agenda item. This prevents any single topic from dominating the meeting, and it signals the importance of sticking to the schedule. So again, time is really important, and we don't want to waste time. We don't really have time to waste. And so we want to make sure that we try to outline time slots for each of the items and topics that we want to present within our meeting. And so let's say though, however, your first order of business your first topic is the most crucial and most important, and you want to spend a little bit more time on that one, then add that time into that, where the other ones, they don't need as much time. So making sure that when you're structuring your agenda, you're able to space it out per time, right? Giving your certain time slots for each topic. Preparation. Share the agenda with participants before the meeting. This allows them to come prepared with relevant information and ideas. It also sets the expectations to what's going to be discussed. So I think this is really important and a great idea. For me, I actually just learned to do this. And so another colleague of mine told me about this. And I was like, oh my God, it's so brilliant. It's so easy. And so, yeah, just sharing it beforehand, this gives their staff members time to kind of read over and glance what to expect. Also gives them an opportunity to see if they have questions about any of these topics, because a lot of the time when we start meetings and we go into it, they're not really thinking about questions at that moment in time. But if you give them time to think about it, to say, oh yeah, I do have a question on that, and they can bring it up during the meeting because maybe there's other questions on that. So giving it to them in advance, even the night before or the day before or 2 days before, would be helpful for them to kind of go over and read through it and know what to expect. Inclusivity. If there are items requiring decision-making or input from specific individuals, ensure that those responsible or knowledgeable about those topics are included in the agenda. So for example, let's say you want to talk about diapering within the infant room. Okay, so you want the infant teachers to discuss that during your meeting. And so you want to obviously give them advance notice, say, hey, just let you know, I really would like you to talk about diapering in our staff meeting, if that's okay with you. And then you're going to input that in your agenda. But just giving them the heads up, not putting that on the spot. You have your meeting like, oh, by the way, I want to talk about diapering. Teachers, can you come to the front? You kind of just like, what? They weren't prepared. They weren't ready for it. But include teachers in your meeting. It doesn't always have to be you having discussions or for you sharing information or you talking. You can get other people's, other staff members to participate in your meeting and present some information as well, but as long as we give them advance notice. Flexibility. So while a focused agenda is important, you need to allow for some flexibility. And this is just because a lot of the time, let's say during the meeting, you have your agenda, you're ready to go, you're going over it, but all of a sudden you have a staff member who has a really important concern or question, and that's not in your agenda. Obviously, it's going to depend on the topic or whatever the question is that they're asking to see if it aligns well with what you're talking about, or if it's something that, it's not really appropriate at this time, maybe we can talk about that another time. But if it's relevant to what you're talking about, and if it's relevant to the staff, or if it's a crucial topic to be discussed, go ahead and implement that within you're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to go ahead and implement it within your staff meeting. So just be flexible. And so having these clear objectives and a focused agenda, it works hand in hand to ensure that meetings are purposeful and efficient. When these practices are implemented, meetings are more likely to stay on track, achieve their intended outcomes, and respect for your staff's time. This results in more productive and engaging discussions and ultimately contributes to the organization's success by making the most of its resources. So having your clear objectives and having this focused outline is going to give you and your staff a more meaningful meeting. And we're respecting everybody's time, which I think is really important. Visual aids and documentation for effective communication. Having these are good, powerful strategies to enhance communications effectiveness. And so when we think about visual aids, we really think about charts and graphs and slides and things like that. But having these visual aids can make complex information more understandable and memorable. They provide a visual reference that complements spoken information and caters to various learning styles among meeting participants. So obviously, for schools, our visual aids might look a little different, right? We might not have charts, we might not have graphs. Maybe your admin team might have those things, but for your teachers, you might not have those type of visual aids. And so what visual aids can we use for our staff meetings that it's appropriate for your school? And so when I think of, school visual aid, I think something like this, right? So for example, let's say you're talking about curriculum for the month of October. And let's say you have a week that's going to be focused on pumpkins, right? And so, you can say all of your ideas about pumpkins and different activities and crafts that they can do about pumpkins. You can say all of those things, but maybe having a visual of some of those activities can be really helpful. Because ideally visual aids help clarify complex concepts, making them easier for everyone to understand. And so when they see it, they're like, oh, okay, I get you. But if you're just saying, yeah, you can do pumpkins, you can do pumpkins with, popsicle sticks, and you can paint them and you can create your pumpkin, you can say that, but it's kind of like, what is she talking about? You can't really visualize that. And so having these visuals will make it a lot more useful and helpful for your staff. Also, let's say you're talking about diapering. You can mention that I've noticed that diapering isn't really happening the correct way. And so the correct way that we need to do diapering is XYZ. So yeah, you can explain it, but also maybe show them a video. Maybe they need to see it for themselves, right? Because we do have visual learners. And so having a video would be helpful for them. And that could be a type of visual aid. Let's say, you can make cards. You can say, we are kind of on a budget right now. And so I think it'll be best if everybody can make their own cards, their own matching cards, their own 3-part cards, whatever it is. And so having it presented to them, say, look, I made these. All you need is cardstock and a laminator and a printer, and you're good to go. You can make your own instead of us having to buy it. So having it in front of them and having them see it for themselves. Oh, okay. I could do this too. And so visual aids can also help with engagement for your meeting. It can capture participants' attention and keeping them focused, because again, a lot of the time we start the meeting off really well. We have everybody's attention, and then they're starting to drift away a little bit. And so now we're in the mid meeting, we're having these visual aids. So now you got all their attention back, and so I think that's a great way to capture their attention and get them back on track with being focused. And so visual aids are often more memorable too than spoken words. So, and it'll help them retain the information that you're saying within the meetings. So I think it's really important to try to incorporate visual aids if you can, whether that's these things that I'm sharing with you, or it could be if your school is really fancy and you're able to share a slides like I am, you can do that. Or if you wanted to type out your own slides and print them out and hand it to them, you can do that as well. But I think this is a really, easy way to incorporate visual aids within your staff meetings. So in addition to visual aids, we also want to make sure that we have documentation of our meetings. And so documentation serves as a tangible record of what's discussed in the meeting. It can include agendas, meeting minutes, reports, and other written materials. And so obviously we already have our agendas ready to go. That's what we plan on talking about and discussing within our meetings. But sometimes we might go off track, and we might not really follow the agenda because we have a staff member who has concerns and questions that's not on our agenda, but they do need to be discussed. Or we have some friends or some staff members who are not present at the meeting. So we want to make sure we document all of this, right? Because effective documentation ensures the important information is not only communicated during the meeting, but also preserved for future reference. And so I have a little video to talk about meeting minutes specifically in a form of documentation, which I prefer.
Meeting minutes are the official summary of what happened during a meeting. Use them as a record for anyone who is unable to attend, and as an artifact for what decisions were made during the meeting. To get you started, here are 6 tips to write meeting minutes like a pro. Take minutes in real time. This part is important as you want the information to be fresh in your mind. Be concise. You don't need to capture every detail or word, just the important stuff. Notes must be understandable by someone who is not in attendance. You'll use your notes for those unable to attend, as well as for your future reference. So make sure your notes are clear enough for someone to understand the major decision points without being present. Stick to the facts. Avoid any personal observations and stick to the facts of what is discussed. Note who is unable to attend. This comes in handy when you need to know who decided on a topic and who didn't. And finally, use a meeting minutes template. You can find free templates with our meeting management tool, Hugo, and take meeting notes that are auto-organized based on your calendar. Get started for free today and make every meeting worth it.
Yeah, so I think meeting minutes are a great way to document what was said and what took place in the meeting. And so not only is it helpful, but it holds you accountable. Meeting minutes creates a record of discussion and decisions. This helps ensure accountability and provides a reference point for following up on action items. For both documentation and visual aids, it makes the meeting content more accessible to individuals with different learning preferences or those who may not be present at the meeting. So, if you have some staff members who were not able to attend the meeting because they're sick or they just had that day off, you have your agenda, you have your meeting minutes to give to them so they can kind of stay on track and they kind of know what happened in that meeting. And so they're aware. We don't ever want staff to feel out of place or not know things. And so having this documentation is great for providing staff who were not present during the meeting. And so incorporating visual aids and documentation in staff meetings can transfer them into more structured, productive, and engaging sessions. However, it's essential to strike a balance to avoid overwhelming participants with too much visual content. The key is to use these tools strategically to complement verbal communication and enhance the overall effectiveness of the meeting. And so going on to what happens after a meeting, right? Follow-up and action items. Follow-up and action items are critical components of effective project management and task completion. They ensure that responsibilities are clearly defined, progress is monitored, and goals are achieved. So follow-up, what is a follow-up, right? What do we mean by following up? And so follow-up refers to the process of checking or monitoring the status and progress of task, project, or commitment after it has been initiated. So for example, let's say during your meeting, one of your objectives was to discuss biting, and how we can stop biting from continually happening. And so during your follow-up, that's what you're going to follow up on. You're going to check on the status of that, of the biting, right? And so we also want to make sure that we include purpose and methods, right? The purpose of the follow-up is to make sure that the task at hand is being completed, it's being done, right? We want to make sure that we're able to stop the biting. And that's the purpose, is stopping the biting. And our method for that is it can be done through, having conversations and checking back in with your staff. You can send emails as well. I wouldn't do phone calls, obviously, because your staff is within the perimeter, but you can easily go up to the teachers, going inside their classrooms and checking in and seeing and tracking to make sure that the biting is stopping. What are we doing to stop the biting? Can you tell me? Can you explain to me? And so having that method of approaching the teachers and talking about it is important to making sure that we're staying on track of whatever task it is that we need to stop or whatever issue it is. Obviously, that's just an example. There's other things that you can follow up on. But that's one thing that I've done in the past, is making sure that we're following up, that we are watching the biters and making sure that the biting stops. Even though it's developmentally appropriate, it does hurt, and we do need to make sure that it doesn't continue on. And so action items. Action items are the specific tasks or actions that need to be completed to achieve the goal. And so again, the action item will be stopping the biting, right? That's the action item that we are focused on. And, having that, the purpose of having these action items is a roadmap for what needs to be done and who is responsible for each task. So who's responsible are the teachers to stop the biting action item, right? And so for attributes, we really want to make sure that the action items are typically being documented with details like the task description. So you're going to talk about, stopping biting in class, XYZ. The people in charge, you're going to include the teachers that are involved, maybe even the students. And this is just for our record. This is just confidential. We're not going to share this with the parents. This is going to stay within the school. And you want to make sure that you have deadlines, right? You want to make sure that, the deadline for biting is immediately. So we want to make sure that we are following certain steps in order to stop this certain action. And so the relationship between follow-up and action plan involves tracking the progress and completion of action items. After action items are assigned during a meeting or planning session, they become the focus of follow-up to ensure that they are executed as planned. The follow-up process may involve checking in on the status of action items, addressing obstacles, providing updates, and making adjustments as needed to keep the project or task on course. Both follow-up and action items help teams stay organized, accountable, and on target, ensuring that objectives are met within a specified time frame. And so, the follow-up and action items just go hand in hand with each other. And it's important that we kind of follow these steps in order for our action or for whatever we need to fulfill gets done. Even goals, this can help with goals. If you have certain goals that you need to achieve, following these steps can help you achieve those goals and to help you stay on track to reach those goals. So we're going to move on to communication. Communication, super important, right? And so the significance of communication with your team and how important it is. Communication isn't just important within our workplace. It's important outside of our workplace as well, in our personal lives. But we're going to get into it and explain why communication is so crucial within the workplace. And so open communication is a cornerstone of a healthy and thriving workplace. It contributes to trust, engagement, collaboration, and problem solving. Furthermore, it supports a positive company culture, enhances decision-making, and promotes continuous learning and innovation. Organizations that prioritize open communication are better positioned for success and employee satisfaction. And so I do have a little video about communication, which I think is really cute. It's straight to the point, and it's great.
Hi, my name is Brian, and today's topic on how to become a great place to work is communicate. Communication is vital in all aspects of life, whether it's with your family, your friends, your church, but especially in the workplace. Now, workplace communication increases job satisfaction and improves productivity. People feel empowered when they're able to communicate with their manager, and when there is communication from their manager, they feel valued. Good communication helps create an enjoyable work environment, which naturally produces effective customer service. Happy workers equals happy customers. Now, the key to good communication is not just the content, but also the delivery. In other words, it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Your body language sometimes speaks louder than your words. You gotta remember, your nonverbal communication is just as important as your verbal communication. My name is Brian, and PCI is a great place to work.
Yeah, so I love that. A lot of the time, communication is very important, but it's also not what you say, but how you say it, right? And also your body language too, is a form of communication, and just being mindful of that is important when we're communicating with our staff within our workplace. And so building trust through communication. Building trust through communication is essential in both personal and professional relationships. Trust is a foundation of strong and healthy connections, and effective communication plays a pivotal role in establishing and nurturing this trust. And so some strategies for building trust through communication is one, active listening, right? Now there's a whole bunch of different strategies, but I'm just going to name a couple of them just for time's sake. But active listening is one of those, right? And so by active listening, you pay close attention when someone is speaking. Show that you're genuinely interested in their thoughts and feelings. Avoid interrupting and provide feedback that demonstrates your understanding. So making sure that you are showing that you're listening, you're being attentive, you're making eye contact, and you're not interrupting. That's one way to build trust through communication. Transparency. Being open and honest in your communication. We need to be honest. We don't want to lie. We don't want to beat around the bush about things. Concealing information or being evasive can erode trust. Share relevant information and be straightforward, especially when it comes to, those hard topics or those hard conversations. You want to be straight to the point. You want to be straightforward with them, and you want to tell it like it is. Consistency. Be consistent in your words and actions. It's really crucial. Keep your promises and your commitments, and ensure that your words align with your behavior. If you start to be inconsistent, your staff could be suspicious and not trust you, right? And if you say, oh yeah, I'm going to give you a raise next month or whatever, and next month comes along and there's no raise, and it's like, what happened? And so just being consistent and keeping your promises. Don't say you're going to give someone a raise and then you don't. That's your staff is not going to be happy and they will not trust you. Empathy. Understand and acknowledge the emotions and perspectives of others. I think this one is really important because, we never know what's going on behind closed doors, outside of the workplace. We don't know what's happening. And so showing this is important for your staff, and having these empathetic communications. It really shows that you care about your staff's feelings and you're willing to support them, and that's going to help them trust you and build a relationship with you and realize like, oh, they understand what's going on. They're here to help support me. Ask for feedback. I think this one is a great to incorporate, and actively seeking feedback from others about your communication. Just demonstrate your commitment to self-improvement and your willingness to adjust your communication style to meet their needs. And so I ask for feedback all the time. I check in. I'm like, how was that? How did I communicate that? Was that okay? How do you feel about the things that I said and how I said it? And sometimes they'll tell me, honestly, it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, the way that, you approach that. And so asking for feedback, and I think a lot of the times we're scared to hear feedback from our staff. But you have to learn to not take things personally too. I've had to learn that, where I used to take everything personally, and any feedback, or especially negative feedback, I'm always like, I took it personal. And so learning to not do that and to hear it is important, because that's the only way you're going to grow and be better. That's how you learn. And I think receiving and asking for feedback is important. Apologize and make amends. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. Even to this day, I make mistakes, but owning up to that and recognizing that is a great way to build trust with your staff. If you mess up on something, own up to it. It's okay. You don't want to sit and lie and say, no, I didn't do that, or no, I don't remember saying that, or whatever the case is. Oh yeah, I did do that. I apologize. Let me fix it. Or what can I do to make it better? And it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't see you. You're not going to seem weak. They're actually going to see that as strength. And so by practicing these communication strategies consistently, you can build and strengthen trust in your relationships. And again, that could be in your workplace. That can even take place outside of the workplace and with your family or with your personal life. Trust takes time to develop, but with open and honest communication, it can be nurtured and deepened over time. And so providing constructive feedback for growth. Providing constructive feedback for growth is a communication process in which individuals offer feedback to help others improve their performance, skills, or behaviors. The primary goal of constructive feedback is to facilitate personal or professional development. So again, like I said before, about trying to receive feedback, we can't take things personally. And having this constructive feedback is important for growth and to be better. And However, when you do provide constructive feedback to your staff, you should have a clear and specific purpose. It is intended to address a particular issue, enhance performance, or support a person's development. The feedback provider needs to identify the specific area or behavior they want to address. Also, when you provide feedback to your staff, and this is you providing feedback to your teachers and staff, you want to make sure that you provide feedback in a timely fashion, right? Because if you wait and you delay your feedback, it's going to be more irrelevant. You know, the longer you delay it, it's not going to be as effective. And so let's say you had a conversation with a person and you want to provide feedback for them. Or let's say a better one is, let's say you observe them in the classroom, right? You're doing your observations of all the teachers. You observe them, you have your evaluation form ready to go. You want to be able to give that feedback probably within that same week, or if not the next week. You don't want to give it like 2 months later, you know? You want to make sure that you give it to them in a timely fashion. And you want to make sure that your feedback is clear and specific as well. Vague or general comments can be confusing and less actionable. For example, instead of saying you need to communicate better, you might say, I noticed during the project meeting that you didn't provide enough context to the team, which led to some confusion. So you want to be very specific when you give feedback. Also, when you give feedback, you want to make sure that you balance both positive and negative feedback. You don't want to just be negative, 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 negative. You know, oh, you did this wrong. Oh, I can't believe you did this. Oh, this is not okay. You know, I always like to start off with positive feedback and then slowly get into the negative feedback. You know, you want to have a good balance of that. And you also want to be respectful when you're giving feedback. And you also want to watch the tone of how you're providing feedback as well, you know. And so some other things that you can incorporate within your staff meetings are little things. You know, you want to make it more fun. You want to make it engaging for your staff. And so sometimes, you know, it's going to depend on the timing of your meeting. Let's say you have like a breakfast type, or it's in the morning, and so you want to offer breakfast items. And so you can offer breakfast, you know, little breakfasty snacks. If it's like in the afternoon, midday, you can provide lunch if it's in your budget, or you can provide just snacks. You know, just providing food in general. You know, staff loves to eat, they have to eat. So just giving them snacks, I think, is a great addition to having your meeting. You can do raffles. I think those are fun. You can do a raffle like in mid-meeting to try to grab their attention if I notice that they're drifting off a little bit. And these can be like $5. Doesn't need to be crazy amounts. $5. I usually do like $5 Starbucks or $5 Target would be best. And just easily having all their names in a hat or envelope, and the winner is Miss Stephanie or whatever it is. Or providing flowers. You know, I think that would be a cute little gesture for your staff, to give them flowers in a staff meeting. So obviously you don't have to do this every meeting, but once in a while, I think it's great. Just the little things kind of help out a lot. And so in conclusion, staff meetings and team communication are the pillars upon which a successful and harmonious workplace is built. The strategies discussed here are your toolkit for conducting effective meetings. However, their true power lies in their ability to cultivate a culture of open and honest communication within your team. When harnessed correctly, this culture can spark innovation, strengthen relationships, and propel your team toward shared goals. So whether you're leading the next staff meeting or engaging in daily interactions with your team, remember that effective communication is the catalyst for success. And so we're going to jump into a quick Q&A. And I did receive some questions through email that I will go ahead and answer. And so one question I had was, conducting routinely staff meetings is challenging for our school. What do you suggest? And so that is hard. You know, like I said, in schools, you know, we have teachers that are doing lunch breaks or taking the breaks at different time because we have to stay in ratio. And so it does make it challenging to conduct routinely staff meetings. And I do recommend having routinely staff meetings. You know, you can do them once a month or something. But I think it's really going to depend on your school. Maybe you can do a staff meeting before school opens. I know that might be a little rough because some schools might open at 7, and so you have a staff meeting at 6:30 in the morning. So make sure you provide lots of coffee. Or you can conduct a meeting after school's over. So maybe you'll have to provide dinner for your staff, or depending on, the nap situation, if everyone's down for a nap and everyone's sleeping, that might be a good time to conduct a meeting. Just really going to have to depend on your school. Maybe you have, I don't know, monthly staff development days, which could be tricky, or you have staff meetings on the weekend through Zoom. You're going to have to play around and be creative, I think. Like for me in my location, our school doesn't open until 9. And so we do our meetings at 8 in the morning. Every month we have our staff meetings. So it's really going to depend on your school, your hours, and your schedule. You might have to make some adjustments. How often should staff meetings occur? So like I said in the first question, I usually like to do them monthly. Sometimes if there's a huge issue that needs to get resolved and we already had our monthly staff meeting, I might conduct another like emergency meeting, just to go over what happened and talk about it. But I like to have a monthly. I think it's important for me. I do them monthly so we can reflect on last month and then talk about the next month and talk about events and things that are going on with that month and possibly even the next month ahead, so we can just start planning ahead. So I like to do it monthly, but again, that's going to depend on you and your school, and also how often you're able to conduct them, because your schedules might be way off and might be challenging, but I always recommend monthly. What are good icebreakers for staff meetings? Oh, this was a fun one. So first of all, icebreakers in general are a great way to create positive engagement for your staff. And so one way of good staff meetings, I think games are fun. I played Twister before, we played Jenga before. And it's a good way to break the ice with your staff. Another one is one-word introductions. And so your staff will introduce themselves only one word. And so one word will describe them. And, that's usually how they're feeling that day. And so it's just a quick way to kind of gauge the room and gauge the mood of all your staff, and it could lead to interesting conversations. Another one is 2-minute interviews, where maybe you'll split up your groups into groups, whether that's 2 partners or 3 groups or 4, depending how large your staff is. And so within the 2 minutes, they're each going to interview each other. And so then after the 2 minutes is over, then that person is going to introduce their partner to everyone based off their interview and based off the question that they asked. And so I think that's really fun. A fun way to break the ice. But there's so many different ones. You can pick whichever works for you, and which one that you like and that you feel that might be best for your team. But I think icebreakers are good. I think icebreakers are actually a good one for when you are having your first of the year meeting. You have new staff coming in, and so a lot of them don't know each other. And so I think that's a really good one to I think icebreakers are a really good way to incorporate within those first meetings, just to kind of get everyone to get to know each other. And so that's it for today. I will have these slides available in our blog for you. And our next webinar is on creative community events. And so you can RSVP for that one. And if you have questions already in mind about community events, please feel free to email me in advance, and I will get those questions ready to go for you. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in many more. Have a great Friday, and it was nice having you all here today. Thank you.